All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Let's play another game of did we do what we said we were going to do when shooting a commercial? Okay, if you are a Patreon supporter of this channel, you will have already seen multiple videos on this very commercial and multiple videos on this exact same setup. Because what we have done is we have gone through the tech scout process together. We've looked at the images, we've looked at what we talked about on the location scout. We did that in real time on Patreon, and now we're going to show you the results of, did I completely change the plan on the day? Do I have any idea what I'm talking about? The only way you actually know is if you join the Patreon group and you see this stuff in advance. Because what we're doing over there now is I'm talking about this stuff before we actually shoot it. So then you can say, oh, it's easy to say after the fact, you planned for X, Y, or Z, and then you did A, B, C. Like it doesn't actually match up. You have no idea what you're doing, Patrick. And then I would say, true, I don't, but I've managed to fool quite a number of people. So if you are interested in more of this stuff, the easiest spot to get it is over at Patreon. That's the only reason that I'm able to keep this channel going or continue to do any of the behind the scenes or the podcast or any of that stuff. It all happens with the support of the Patreon people. So many thanks if you are. Okay, let's jump in. I'm going to catch you up. Even the YouTube folks have seen, we've done a number of different, look, we did the classroom video a few days ago. I think we did this bedroom scene as well that we talked about. And now from the same commercial, we are going to do the outdoor scene here. This is 2 shots on the storyboards. Just to give you a bit of a background on this job, if you haven't seen the other videos, we are doing, I think 50 setups in 2 days. We have to be moving incredibly quickly. We're shooting on 2 different cameras, a rarity here in Western Australia that you would use 2 different cameras for the same job, rolling at the same time. That's to save on time. Really, that's all we have. Limited number of hours in the day. We need to get a certain number of shots to make the edit flow. It's got to be action-packed and exciting. I'm not going to describe the whole commercial to you, but you can get the idea. Okay, what we're going to be talking about today are these 2 commercials, or these 2 setups, sorry. We've got one outdoors, lady putting clothes up, and then kid coming outside to deliver more clothes to the lady. That's all you need to know. What else? The cameras are mini LFs paired with the Zelmus Apollo anamorphics. I think they are. Apollo? Whatever, the Zelmus anamorphics. They are nice lenses. They're my favorite lenses because everybody hates them. Everybody hates them because they're really hard to make look nice. The thing is, I don't want to make things look nice. I want to make things look like they are from a different world. It's a different time. This is not real, right? Even though it looks like these people are actually putting clothes on the line, they're not. They're actors. We're pretending. How do you make that pretend a little bit less pretend? Is you like smear it with stuff that doesn't look real. And this doesn't look real, right? I've never seen Nonna out here in the backyard. I've never seen her, well, number one, I haven't seen her put up clothes on a rainy day, which is what it was. But also, like looking like this and this out of focus, we haven't seen it before. It's like, let's try. Why not? We're here, we might as well experiment. While other people are responsible for selling the look onto agency and client, right? I'm just like, wait, let's make it look different and cool. Okay, so what else do you need to know? Nothing. Let's get started. We're going to look at the boards first, and we're going to go very quickly through what we've discussed in the other videos, which is what is the thing that we have to identify for this wide shot? Like what makes this possible? What sets the entire look for everything is on a day exterior is when are we going to be here? What time of day are we going to be here? That sets the entire look. If I say, oh, I don't mind what time we should be here for this wide exterior shot with a giant building in the background, some sort of house, I don't care. Well, we get there on the day and then all of the light is coming this way and you can't backlight it and the whole thing looks like hot garbage, right? I like to avoid, just a rule of thumb, hot garbage. So we don't want to make it look like that. So if I have multiple locations that I have to visit during a day, well, then I need to start getting a list together of what is the most important thing that I need to look after schedule-wise and what's the least important that I have to look after schedule-wise. If I have interiors and exteriors, well, the interiors are less important, right? They're less important to get the day right if I have the necessary lighting requirements, okay? If I don't have a generator, I don't have a big truck with a big team, it's going to be harder to manipulate interior scenes. If we have specific must-haves for those interiors, I'm going to have to worry about those. But right now, it's second on my list, right? If I'm putting together a list, it's behind the exteriors because I definitely, even with a big truck and a big team, it's going to be much harder to control all of the level in a daytime exterior if I screw it up. Easier if I get it right, harder if I screw it up. So I don't want to screw this one up. So already in the pre-production process, this shot goes to the top of the list. And I will tell you, I think we had 3 different exterior shots on this day, but this one was the hardest to overcome if we were to get it wrong. So now that becomes my top priority, because all of the other daytime exterior locations that we were at on this day, they were easier to manipulate than this one. Now, why would that be? It's because this is very orientation specific. We have to be looking this way to get the house in the background, to get the clothesline in the background, and to get the 3 people. Like if we were to flip around the other side and we were to shoot from back there this way, okay, we could still get the 3 people, we could still get the clothesline, we wouldn't get the house. We would just get a backyard fence. And you look at the director and you say, which is more important? A backyard, can we have a backyard fence in this shot? Or do we want it to feel like it's actually at the house and it all ties together like a nice little family? And the director says, no, we need to see the house. You go, there you go. There's my answer. I have to see the house. Okay. So now I know I have to be here at a very specific time because the way this building is facing, which is what you do on the location scout, right? This is from the video that we showed inside Patreon. The sun comes up over here, goes this way. Okay. Now it comes this way and then it loops all the way around. So it ends up being front lit. Basically this is, let's call this 12 o'clock. This is 13. This is 14, 15, 16. Okay. By 4 o'clock, we're getting front lit sun. By 12 o'clock though, we're getting sun over here facing this way, which means all of this, imagine this is the building and then the shadow comes this way, right? Which is right in the area where we want to shoot. This is our hero area. We want to shoot there. Okay, so that's a problem with key light. Key light, if we want to shoot there, well, we probably don't want this thing in full shade. Why? Because we're going to have to light it if it's in full shade to compete with this hot background. Because imagine 12 o'clock sun, this is all shade, and then this is getting hit with sun back here. So if I'm looking this way, let's go back to the storyboard shot. If I'm looking this way, what's the worst thing that I could possibly do in this scenario? The worst thing is have all back here lit up like a Christmas tree, and then all my key level, which is these 2 in here, really darkened down. Because how would I overcome that? Well, to overcome it, I would have to put up a lamp over here on this side. I wouldn't want to put a lamp on this side or it bounce because then I'm sun sandwiching. So it's like process of elimination means that I definitely don't want, like rule number 1, let's be here when this background is not lit up. Okay, so I do not want this giant brick wall or this roof lit up at all. That's problems. I cannot put the light over here, even if I wanted to, and I had the crew and I had the time to set up, which I don't. Why? Because there's no room. Physically, there's no room. We can't move this thing. This is the fence that runs along this way, right behind us. So I am fully, like I have my back to the fence in the backyard of this house. Okay? So there's no more going back. There's no more room to be had. I just need 2 things with my schedule. Don't be in shade here. Don't be in sun here. Okay, well, let's look at it then. If we're up, we draw the sun path again. So we've got 7 in the morning, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, when can we be here? Well, we can be here between 8 o'clock and let's say 11 would be the latest. Okay, now you give that window over to the first AD with the caveat of if we are here at 7:30, okay, we can start setting up. Generally, you're going to want to set up, especially if you're trying to get ahead on time. We want to set up for the wide because it's the biggest. It requires the most amount of labor from everyone that isn't you. Okay, and you're trying to use your team to maximum efficiency. So if I know for the wide, what am I going to want? I'll probably want to bounce over here, and then I'll want to neg all along here. Right? I want to take all of this light away because I don't want the sun. Imagine it's 9:30. We get the sun in just the right spot. The sun is beaming. We get a nice sunny day. It's beaming on the grass and then bouncing up into their faces. That turns everybody green. It's really hard to get rid of. It's a pain in the ass. Don't do it. So I'm going to want to black this whole thing. And I also want to black all of this return to create some shadow, right? Because I don't want it filling in and getting gross and getting flat. I want to create as much depth as I possibly can every single time, okay? That is the challenge that I have set for myself. If we get here at 7:30, we cannot shoot the wide. I don't want to shoot the wide at 8 o'clock, okay? So if you think you're getting ahead, if you're the first AD and you think, oh, well, we can get ahead and we can just jump straight into the wide at 8 o'clock. Why wouldn't I want to shoot the wide at 8 o'clock, okay? Why would I want to wait until 9 o'clock to shoot the wide? Any guesses? I'll give you time. Let's go back to this shot. Why wouldn't we want to do this shot at 8 o'clock? Well, it's because the sun is going to be smack bang in the frame at 8 o'clock. And that means it's going to be blown out. This entire sky is going to be really blown out right? And plus it's not even the fact that the sky's blown. It's like there's a giant blob of sun that is super, super hot in the background. We're shooting on anamorphics that are purposefully made to flare. It's going to wash out. It's going to be low contrast. It's not going to be nice. So if I can avoid having the sun directly in the frame, I want to do that. So let's wait until 9 o'clock. Now, could we do this shot at 8? Well, it depends. Like if we don't get this exact angle and maybe the sun is over here, like maybe we could use it to bounce some back, but we have 2 cameras. And the joy of 2 cameras is that realistically, we should be able to get both of these shots at the same time. So really we should only be doing one setup. And this is where you have to sacrifice. It's like, could I make this shot nicer if I was only shooting with one camera and not doing the wide at the same time? The answer is yes. I absolutely could make this way nicer. Now, I say way nicer in my own little cinematography brain, but does anybody else care? No, nobody cares. What they care about is, we have 50 setups today. Can you not put us behind on time? And so can you get something that is acceptable by at least checking off some of the things that we must have to make something look nice? Maybe not all of them, maybe not get it perfect, but just get it. Getting it is better than not getting it and getting it within time. That's like the trade-off that you're playing when you're doing so many setups in a day. And so what does that look like final image-wise? It looks like this. Okay, like would I do different things to this image if I was only we're shooting 2 cameras at the same time. So you can see I've labeled these. This is the 135 and the 75, right? I'm shooting on the 75. Guess what? Because we're shooting full frame anamorphic, you can actually see the neg in the frame, right? You see that? That is a 20 by 12 of neg in the frame. That is what is creating all of this shadow. Without that, it just fills in and it gets really, really, really flat. Okay? And we don't want really, really flat. And you can see here, Elliot, Mr. Begham, you can see I love how they made the lenses white, right? Like you're going to lose a lens set on, or you're going to lose a lens on set. Okay? It's white. You can definitely see it. There it is. That is the B camera who is getting, at this very moment, getting this shot. Okay? Now, you'll notice that we didn't get a sunny day. We got a cloudy day. So now what becomes even more important on a cloudy day is the neg. Why? Because we have soft light all around. We're not struggling for quality of light. It's already softened. It's like, soft is pretty nice. If you want soft, overcast is great. What's not great about overcast is you lose all shape. So now you have to bring in shape as close as you can to the frame line. Imagine that, like if you cut that 10% off the edge, like that's the frame. That's how close you are getting to the edge of the frame. When I say edge of the frame, I mean edge of the frame, as close as you can possibly get it. So if we were to have sun, it would be back here and it would be edging all of these people out. I mean, you can sort of see it in his head here. You can sort of see it. It just does it by itself, even overcast. If we put in enough neg, you sort of feel where that light is actually coming from. Again, we're stacking different elements in the frame, not all on the same level. Why? To generate as much depth as we can. What would be cooler here is, like, we've even really turned the angle of the line so that we get the maximum depth for this shot. And then Elliot has sort of worked his way into getting more depth here by manipulating some of these foreground elements. But I mean, he's on a 135 at T2.8, full frame anamorphic. This thing is just nothing but blob, right? But you could see, what would I change here? Like, what are we sacrificing? Well, if I was going to do this shot, I would move that neg that is over there in the wide and way over here in this shot, I would move it way closer, okay? And I would probably put this element here. I'd probably put that over here just to balance the frame a little bit, and then have her in between those two. And maybe we just come up a little bit in height so we can get him over her shoulder here as opposed to way down there. But that doesn't work when you have 2 cameras. Now, would it be that much better? I mean, I think it would be nicer, but we had to get this in whatever it was, 30 minutes or something. We had 15 minutes to set up and 30 minutes to get this shot before we moved inside to get the other video stuff, all of this stuff, right? So that's what we had to do. So anything that I mentioned in the location scout that we didn't actually pull off, no, we did exactly what I said we were going to do. We just didn't get any sun. So we didn't need any bounce over here. And again, with the bounce over here, you'd have to be like an 8x8 because you'd have to get it above the line and with just enough return. And sometimes it's like, oh, sometimes it's not going to add that much. Would it make it 1% better? Maybe. It's not going to make it 10% better of a shot though. And when the crew has other stuff to do, this is the juggling act that you play. Is it going to make it that much better? Is it not going to make it that much better? Anyway, and what is it? This is all on the easy rig and straight to as planned, right? It's like, how could, in my mind, how could the shot have been better? The only way the shot could have been nicer, in my mind, is sun. Why? Because then you wouldn't get this like swath of same level. Remember, we're going for different areas of contrast. I want highlight, low light, highlight, low light, highlight, shadow, highlight, shadow, highlight, shadow, everywhere. Now, if you take this, like we got a whole swath here of nothing but the same level. There's a little variation between here and here, but I'd like more. How could we get more? Well, if the sun was out, then this would be hotter. We would have to expose for that heat, which means we would have to then either close down or use ND, which means we get darker shadows where there are shadows, brighter highlights where there are brighter highlights, and then we can massage that middle. Here with overcast, there's no real middle to expand because, there's no extremes to manipulate. There's only a middle, right? If you were to imagine this shot on a histogram, right, it'd be like this. So there's no, like it's, the job then becomes, how do we push left and right here? It's very hard to do. Whereas if you have this as your histogram, okay, well then it'd be about, well, let's fill in the shadows a little bit and let's bring these two gaps closer together and let's reduce some of this a little. So we're aiming for basically what you would want. What I like is like that, right? I like lots and lots of shadow, and then I like to have that whole gradient. I don't want some steep drop off in shadow, in highlight. I want to roll it off, and I want the thing that I'm focused on, I want it to fall in the middle of that distribution range, because that is where we are going to get our best stuff. So we set everybody up. Anything else on the lenses? Anything else that we didn't talk about that we did on the day? I don't think so, right? 2 cameras at the exact same time. We probably took, I think we did like 3 takes of this. So the big setup was, let's get art department, everything in place. Let's get everybody dressed. We also did this first. When we landed, we went with this scene first, not only for time of day, but even if the time of day wasn't a concern, if we're shooting multiple scenarios at this location up here that we did, the interior that we did a couple videos ago, this one, we got to set up lights. We've got to manipulate things inside. There's lots of stands. Things get more complicated. Here, we know that all I'm doing is setting up over here. All I'm doing is setting up this neg, and then we can pretty much shoot. Okay, well, let's get that neg set up. Then let's shoot this, because there's 15,000 different other departments that have to get things done before we can actually shoot this, which means I can let go. Lighting and grip can all come over to the other side of the building to be setting up for this stuff, right? That previous scene. So then we can just walk into the previous scene. So we're leapfrogging, trying to control the resources as much as we can and trying to get all this stuff, like everything here, this group of people, when we're on the tech scout, they're all trying to figure out what can we get ahead on to make the maximum use of our screen time so the director can get as many takes as they would like to get something that they're happy with. So super, super simple setup that, was it exactly what we had in our head? No, because we thought sun. Okay, there's no sun. It's overcast. Does that change anything? No, because even if the sun did pop out, like worst nightmare, halfway through the shot, sun pops out, it's still in the right place, right? Just because you never hope for, sometimes you hope for overcast if it fits for the vibe. But even if it's overcast, you always plan on worst case scenario, sun popping out. What are you going to do? The answer is this. Okay, 2 little shots quickly that we can move on to. There's a little bit of shape. They've got something to them. You imagine this shot now. I don't know. I just think, imagine this shot on like a Master Prime or something cleaner, Ultra Prime or something. It starts to feel like grandma in the backyard. This is like, I've never seen grandma in the backyard look like this. How do they do it? We shot on anamorphic lenses on a full frame camera. That isn't what you're used to seeing. If you're not used to seeing it, it stands out a little bit. If it stands out, it's like, ooh, you've caught my attention. Now, I could just be completely talking out my ass there, but that's what I tell myself. And that's what I tell the production in order to get the lenses in. It does help though when the director's on your side and they're like, yeah, let's do that. Let's get a little funky. Anyway, that's our look. Okay, if you've got questions, leave them down in the comments. You want to see more behind the scenes stuff, Patreon is the spot to do it. That link is also in the description below. Many thanks, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.